Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors and respect, double honors and respect unto the elders and to the apostles of the great millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching his word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning, and unto the Bayath and the Madah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. Okay, this is going to be the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1. Okay, so according to my previous video on the captivity of Greece, I just want to make a little correction where I said that Philip the Macedonian, Philip II of Macedonia, he was actually the one who assassinated him was one of his, I said it was his son in my previous video, which was incorrect, but his son was under the suspicion of his father's assassination, but the one who really assassinated him was Pausanias of Orestes. He was a member of Philip II of Macedon's personal bodyguard, and he assassinated Philip in 336 BC. And this man was also, let's see, here. So this man was also not only a royal bodyguard of Philip II of Macedon, but he was also Philip II's lover. Yep. So, this was the guy that assassinated Philip II. Just want to make that little correction. It says here that Philip II of Macedon, bodyguard and former lover, wielded the knife, but 21-year-old Alexander, at the time heir to the powerful king, quickly fell under suspicion. So Alexander the Great was suspected that he could have arranged his father's murder because, Alexander, he was a bit envious of his dad because of his father's accomplishments and achievements, and how famous he was, and how well known he was throughout the land. But aside from that, it's neither here nor there. But we're gonna go into this guy right here, Antiochus IV Epiphanes. All right, so in accordance with my last lesson, so we're gonna go ahead and get into the scripts, and as well as read a little bit of this this article about Antiochus IV Epiphanes. So we're going to start off with the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1, and it says, "And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius," and this is talking about Darius III, Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Verse 2, and that's another thing too, is that Philip II, he was also trying to, conquer Persia as well. And, his son took over after his assassination, as it says here in verse 2, "and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth." Verse 3, "and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up." Okay, so as it says in the book of Daniel, chapter 4, verse 17, it says that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and he setteth up whomsoever he will. So it was a time for Alexander the Edomite to be in power at the time. Verse 4, it says, "And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations, and kings who became tributaries unto him." Verse 5, and after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. All right. Now, going into, let's see. Salakia, we get the Diadochi, or the four rival generals, families and friends of Alexander the Great. And of course, let me get here. And like I said, going to my previous lesson about the captivity in Greece, the Diadochi included Ptolemy, Antigonus, Cassander, and Seleucus. Okay, just a reminder there. And going over here, back here, but before we get to this, I left, verse 6, and it says, wherefore he called, 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 6, and it says, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Verse 7, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. Verse 8, and his servants bare rule everyone in his place. Verse 9, and after his death they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them. Many years, excuse me, many years and evils were multiplied in the earth, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. Okay, now let's go into a little bit of the history here. Okay, so let's see. So Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes was king was king of the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death in 164 BC. Notable events during Antiochus' reign include his near conquest of the Ptolemaic Egypt, his persecution of the Jews of Judea and Samaria, and the rebellion of the Maccabees. Okay. Now, the son of King Antiochus III the Great, Antiochus IV, accession to the throne was controversial, as he was seen as a usurper by some. After the death of his brother, Seleucus IV Philopator, in 175 BC, the true heir should have been Seleucus' son, Demetrius I. Now, however, Demetrius I was very young and a hostage in Rome at the time, and Antiochus seized the opportunity to declare himself king instead. And he successfully rallying enough of the Greek ruling class in Antioch to support his claim. This helped set a destabilizing trend in the Seleucid Empire in subsequent generations, as an increasing number of claimants tried to usurp the throne after his own death. Okay, let's see. We get to the point here. So, yeah, here we go. Okay, so rise to power. Born around 215 BC, Antiochus was a son of the Seleucid king Antiochus III the Great. Antiochus appeared to have been originally named Mithridates. Excuse me. Although this name would be changed either after the death of his elder brother Antiochus or when he eventually ascended the throne. As a potential successor to the throne, he became a political hostage of the Roman Republic under the terms of the Treaty of Apamea. Okay, and the Treaty of Apamea was a peace treaty conducted in 188 BC between the Roman Republic and Antiochus III, ruler of the Seleucid Empire, and it ended in the Roman-Seleucid Wars. It took the treaty took place after Roman victories at the Battle of Thermopylae and the Battle of Magnesia, and after excuse me, and after Roman and Rhodian naval victories over the Seleucid navy. So going back, Oh, excuse me. After his older brother Seleucus IV Philopator succeeded their father to the throne in 187 BC, Antiochus was exchanged for his nephew Demetrius. Demetrius, the son and heir of Seleucus. After this, Antiochus lived in Athens, and was there when his brother was assassinated in 175 BC by the government minister Heliodorus. Okay, so going back to First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 10, it says, "And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, excuse me, son of Antiochus the king," which is Antiochus the third, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Verse 11, "In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." Okay, so, if you watched my previous lesson about the Hellenization period, okay, the Hellenistic period when, Israel, the Israelites at the time, they took on the ways of the Greeks, their customs, their courtesies, their culture, their language, everything. And they persuaded many to do so. In verse 12, "So this device pleased them well." Verse 13, "Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen." Okay, so they were granted permission to perform these abominable acts that were the customs of the heathen. Verse 14, "Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen." Verse 15, "And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief." Okay. Verse 16, "Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of 2 realms. 17, "Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy." 18, "And made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt, but Ptolemy was afraid of him, and fled, and many were wounded to death." Verse 19, "Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof." Okay, and let's see. This was talking about a war against Egypt and relations with Rome. So like I said, the guardians of King Ptolemy IV Philometor demanded the return of Syria in 170 BC, declaring war on the Seleucids on the assumption that the kingdom was divided after Antiochus' murder of his nephew. However, Antiochus had warning of the attack and had prepared more thoroughly. He had already built his forces and moved them into position, and as soon as the Egyptian forces left Pelusium, they were attacked and defeated by Antiochus IV and his Seleucid army. The Seleucids then seized Pelusium, giving them supplies and access to all of Egypt. He advanced into Egypt proper, conquering all but Alexandria and capturing King Ptolemy. This was partially achieved because Rome, Ptolemaic Egypt's traditional ally, was embroiled in the Third Macedonian War and was not willing to become involved elsewhere. So, all right. Now, verse 20. And it says, and after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 140th year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. 21, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof. So like I said in my previous lesson, once again, Antiochus, he went into Jerusalem against Judah. He ransacked the temple. He took all, everything. Verse 22, and the table of the shewbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. 23, he took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. 24, and when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. Okay. So, throughout all of history, this has always been Esau Edom's, his MO, which is rape, robbery, and murder. And, to be a colonizer, to conquer, take ownership by force. Okay, verse 25. It says, therefore there was great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. All right, so let's see if I can find it here. So let's see. Yep, here. Persecution of the Jews and the Maccabean revolt. The Seleucids, like the Ptolemies before them, held a suzerainty, which includes the rights and obligations of a person, state, or other polity, which controls the foreign policy and relations of a tributary state, but allows the tributary state internal autonomy, where the subordinate party is called a vassal state, or tributary state. So, they seized Jerusalem. They respected the culture and protected the Jews' institutions. This policy was drastically reversed by Antiochus IV, seemingly after what was either a dispute over leadership of the temple in Jerusalem and the office of the high priest, or possibly a revolt whose nature was lost to time after being crushed. Local revolts against the Seleucid Empire were not usual, but most were not successful. The revolt that Antiochus IV ultimately triggered in Judea was unusually well chronicled and preserved. However, according to the book of 2nd Maccabees, the crisis had its origins in the years leading up to the 6th Syrian War. In 171 BC, Antiochus had deposed the high priest Jason and replaced him with Menelaus, who had offered Antiochus a large bribe to secure the office in 168 BC, when Antiochus was campaigning in Egypt. A rumor spread in Judea that he had been killed. Jason gathered a force of 1,000 soldiers and made a surprise attack on the city of Jerusalem. Menelaus was forced to flee Jerusalem during the ensuing riot. Jason's intentions may have been to take former office by force and present his reassumption of power, as fait accompli to the regency that would take power in the wake of the king's death, assuming that they would allow him to stay in power rather than invite further conflict during a delicate political moment. But Antiochus was alive and returned from Egypt enraged by the reverse he had suffered at the hands of the Romans by the Jews, rejection of his chosen candidate for high priest, he attacked Jerusalem and restored Menelaus, then executed many Jews. Okay. Okay, so and it says right here, when these happenings were reported to the king, he thought that Judea was in revolt, raging like a wild animal. He set out from Egypt and took Jerusalem by storm. He ordered his soldiers to cut down without mercy those whom they met and to slay those who took refuge in their houses. There was a massacre of young and old, a killing of women and children, a slaughter of virgins and infants. In the space of 3 days, 80,000 were lost, 40,000 meeting a violent death, and the same number being sold into slavery. So, and this is according to 1 Maccabees, after restoring Menelaus, Antiochus IV issued decrees aimed at helping the most enthusiastically pro-Greek faction of Hellenized Jews against the traditionalists. He outlawed the Jews' religious rites and traditions, and the temple in Jerusalem was forcibly changed to a syncretic Greek Jewish cult that included worship of Zeus. See? And if you really think about it, so, yeah. So, the Greek historian Diodorus wrote that Antiochus sacrificed a great swine at the image of Moses and at the altar of the Most High that stood in the outward court, and sprinkled them with the blood of the sacrifice. He commanded likewise that the books by which they were taught to hate all other nations should be sprinkled with the broth made from the swine's flesh. And he put out the lamp called by them immortal, which burns continually in the temple. Lastly, he forced the high priest and the other Jews to eat swine's flesh. So, yeah, man. This is fucked up. This goes to show you, man, this is, and the fact that, like I said before, going back to verse 15 or verse 11, where it says, 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 11 says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. Since we depart from them, we have had much sorrow. Okay, so, our own people, they didn't stand up for Yahweh Shai till death. They folded and bent the knee and took on the ways of the wicked here. Okay, now getting back to where I was. 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 27, it says, every bridegroom took up a lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. Yeah, because this man had this psychopath had his soldiers kill young and old, women and children, virgins and infants, man. He spared nobody. Verse 28, the land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And confusion is just another way of us saying like disorder, shame, being overcome by the enemy, overwhelmed. 29, and after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude. Verse 30, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. In fact, that's another one of Edom's tactics. Going to the book of Psalms. Psalms chapter 55, verse 21, and it says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Okay, That's part of Esau's mastery of deception. Now going back to 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 30, it says, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Israel. 31, and when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. Verse 32, but the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. 33, then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. 34, and they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. Verse 35, they stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. 36, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Okay, verse 37, thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. Okay. This is no different from what's going on today. The people, those fakes that are in the land right now, man, they don't follow after the Bible. They don't follow after the principles of Yahweh Bashim Shai's doctrine. They follow after what they call the Talmud, which is after a Babylonian philosophy, a heathen philosophy. Verse 37, I'm going to read again, and it says, thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. 38, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. After that great slaughter, man, a lot of Israelites, they jumped ship, they got out of there. And some Israelites were taken captive, Now verse 39, it says, her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. 40, as had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. 41, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Okay, so verse 42, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathens agreed according to the commandment of the king. 43, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbaths. Okay, so just like back then, look what's going on today. Nothing new under the sun, right? Because that's what Esau Edom's trying to do right now. He's trying to unite everybody together via that RFID microchip, because that's his end game goal. Back then they didn't have it. All they just had was the law, but now Esau Edom has this device, and if you've been paying attention and discerning the times that we're in, it's only a matter of time before that chip becomes more prevalent, and eventually it's going to be made mandatory. All right, so verse 44. I'm going to read verse 43 again. It says, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbaths. 44, for the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem, in the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. Verse 45, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should prophesy or profane the Sabbaths and festival days. 46, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. Okay, now it said, let's see here. Yeah, like it says right here. It says, these decrees were a departure from typical Seleucid practice, which did not attempt to suppress local religions in their empire, though they may be similar to other instances in the Hellenistic era, when local polities were punished for revolt against their imperial suzerain by having their autonomy and local laws repealed and local shrines removed from their control. The city of Jerusalem was sacked a second time in the disorder. Antiochus established a military Greek citadel called the Acra in Jerusalem to serve as a stronghold for Hellenized Jews and a Greek military garrison. This happened from 168 to 167 BC. Let's see. So, this, let's see, it says, such steps triggered a revolt against his rule known as the Maccabean revolt. Scholars of the Second Temple of Judaism therefore sometimes refer to Antiochus' reign as the Antiochene crisis for the Jews. Traditionally, as expressed for the first and second books of the Maccabees, the Maccabean revolt was painted as a national resistance to a foreign political and cultural oppression. In modern times, however, scholars have argued that Antiochus IV was more intervening in a civil war between the traditionalist Jews in the country and the Hellenized Jews in Jerusalem. Scholars think the revolt also led to the writing of the Book of Daniel, where the villain called the King of the North is generally considered to be a reference to Antiochus IV. The portrayal of Antiochus there attacking the holy city of Jerusalem, but eventually meeting his end would influence later Christian depictions of the anti-Christ. So in the Book of Daniel, I think it was let's see, I think it was Slovakia, give me a moment. Oh man, where was it? Just bear with me for a second. Was it in? Wait, hold on. Was it? I could have. Man. Gosh, where was it? I know it's in the Book of Daniel. I think it's the 11th chapter. Yeah, he was referenced to the King of the North. I'm trying to find it. Let's see. Yeah, bear with me for a second. I know I'm almost there. Excuse me. There we go. Yeah, here we go. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 11. Okay. Let's see, Daniel chapter 11. Yep, Daniel chapter 11, I'm going to start at verse 39. It says, "Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with the strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain." 40, "And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him. Come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over." 41, "He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. And he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape." Verse 43, "But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps." Okay, so, yeah, the king of the north, as it just says right there, the scholars think the revolt also led to the writing of the book of Daniel, where the villain called the king of the north is generally considered to be a reference to Antiochus IV. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, now, so yeah, this is, excuse me. All right, now let me get back to the first Maccabees. So yeah, I think that was the point I was trying to get there when I said that they were referring to him as the king of the north. Okay, I left off at First Maccabees chapter 1. Let's see. Yep, right here. This is verse 44. Yeah, First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 44, and it says, "For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land." In verse 45, "And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days." Verse 46, "And pollute the sanctuary and holy people." Verse 47, "Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts." 48, "That they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation." 49, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances." Verse 50, "And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die." 51, "In the selfsame manner wrote he to excuse me, wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city." Verse 52, "Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and for so they committed evils in the land." 53, "And drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor." 54. Now the 15th day of the month Caslow, in the 100th, 40th, and 5th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. 55. And burnt incense at the doors of the houses and in the streets. 56. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, which they found, they burnt them with fire. 57. And wheresoever was found with any the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. All right, so let's get let's see, what's that scripture? Yep, this is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25. And it says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and a dividing of times. Okay? So, just like back then, you know, and just like how it is now, Esau Edom has changed the laws and the times. He's changed everything. Everything is all upside down, ass backwards, topsy-turvy because of him. Everything is out of order. Nothing is right. Everything is just confusion at this point. Everything in the land is out of order. Okay? Okay, so, you know, this is, this is Esau Edom. Back then, man, when the Greeks came into power, those were Edomites, so-called Caucasian devils. Okay, now it says here in verse 58 in book of Maccabees, book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 58. Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. So, you know, any Israelite that rebelled, they were put to death for following, you know, the commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay? And there's going to come a point in time where, you know, we're going to follow suit. You know, if we keep the testimony, you know, eventually, you know, these devils, they're going to really rise up and come against this word. And anybody who still holds on to this faith, man, are going to be put to death. Martyrs. Verse 59. Now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of the power, the Most High. 60. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. 61. And they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. 62. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. 63. Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. Verse 64. And there was very great wrath upon Israel. And that's it for the first chapter of 1 Maccabees. So, you know, this is you know, like it says in the book of 2nd Esdras. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, the chapter, 2nd Esdras, chapter 16, the 16th chapter. You know, and this is what's coming. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 16, Okay, now, okay, so this is yep, 2nd Esdras chapter 16, verse 68. It says, "For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols." Just like what they did in the Greek, back in the Greek times, the times of the Greek Empire. Verse 69. "And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot." So, any Israelite that gives consent and bends the knee to the beast system, they're going to be, ultimately judged. Verse 70. "For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord." 71. "They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord, Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai." Okay? Verse 72. "For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses." Verse 73. "Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire." Okay? So a great insurrection, talking about martial law. And martial law is coming. Okay? And Trump is that cruel lord that he's that guy that's gonna make it happen. So get your mind right, pray, and get ready, because when that time comes, man, these devils, they know who the prophets are. They've seen our faces all over YouTube and any other social platforms. They know who we are. They know where we are. So it's just a matter of time until whenever Esau is ready to make his move, man. So you just, it's just like I said, it's just a matter of time before this devil really comes with it. And like I said, I hope that this was edifying to the body, and to the few sincere believers and listeners. Once again, this was the book of Maccabees, the book of 1st Maccabees, chapter 1. And with closing, I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahushai B'Hashem, Raka'ak Wadash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching His word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning, and unto the Bayath Adabadah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. See you on the next lesson, Lord willing. Kwam Yasharallah, Wa Abad Bal, Shalom, Barakatam.